Yesterday, the yesterday the topic that Rabbi Hertzfeld conveniently missed was bathroom etiquette. All right, and how to control your your bathroom habits and when to go to the bathroom and anything that you ever wanted to know about bathrooms. That was yesterday's topic. Today we're going to switch from bathroom etiquette to bath time. Okay, we're going to talk about bathing today. So as we continue, Derech Rechitza, we are on fourth chapter, Halacha 16. This is a very long chapter because it deals with health. And the Rambam said many, many times that health is a serious thing. And therefore, he's going to tell you everything there is to know. So we are talking Derech Harachitza, number 16. So I'm going to tell you, says the Rambam, the proper way to take a bath. Now, obviously, we have to understand that this was 1,000 years ago, and we didn't have showers like we do today. They had a bathhouse, right? There was no indoor plumbing. So you had a bathhouse that you would go to, and that was it. So, first of all, how often should you go to the bathhouse? So the Rambam starts off by saying, Sheyikanes Adam lamerchatz mishiva yamim l'shiva yamim. You should go every week, once a week. Pick a day, and you would go take a bath once a week. Again, hard for us in 2026. What year are we up to? 2026 to understand this because we don't usually go more than one day without showering. But be that as it may, you would go once every 7 days. And v'lo yikana samoch lachila. So when is the proper time to go? Do not go during eating time, during meal time or close to meal time. V'lo kishu hurayev. Don't go when you are super hungry. Ele kishayatchil hamazon lehisakel. Right? You should wait until after the food is already mid-digestion. It's a nice thing to take a bath in hot water, but not boiling water. Nichve is the word kiviyah, right? You know the pasuk, kiviyah tachat kiviyah, a burn for a burn, right? So kiviyah means to burn. So we don't want you to take a bath and burn yourself. Okay, that makes sense. So you take it in warm water, but not too hot. Virosho bilvad b'chamin shaguf nichva behen. And when you wash your head, okay, you have to do it, or you should do it in warm water, right? Warm water, and actually burning hot water. A little weird. I'm not sure that feels so good, but that's what the Rambam says. Then you wash your whole body with warm water. So basically, we have the thermostatic valve in the shower today. So the Rambam says you set it to high, and as you go through your shower, you slowly go colder and colder and colder until the end. Okay, but you shouldn't use hot water or cold water for your head. Remember, he said you have to use really hot water. So you can't use what we call tepid water or cold water. You have to use hot water. Okay. Nor should you take a bath in cold water in the winter. Okay, that's the other no-go. Okay, says the Rambam. That's not a smart thing to do. Hang on one second. I got to take this call. Hey. Obviously, in the winter. Do not take a cold bath in the winter, says the Rambam. Okay. V'lo yurchatz ad sheyazia v'yifarach kol gufo. His second suggestion is you shouldn't take a bath until you build up a sweat. Okay. And your body is v'yifareach kol gufo. The word v'yifarech is an interesting word. It's like avodat farech. Um, it means like broken, right? The English translated as massaged. Okay, so you have to be relaxed, you have to sweat out, and you have to be massaged. Now, I don't know if anybody has been to a Turkish bath before. They call it a hammam, right? I was lucky to be in one, although when I was in it, I didn't feel so lucky. But anyways, that's what they do there. They like kind of rub you, and you know, it's a schwitz, right? Again, we're not used to this, right? We don't usually do this. We just take a conventional shower, but this was a whole, elaborate setup because they didn't have indoor plumbing, so they had to make it more, for everyone. Anyways, so that's what the Rambam says. And you shouldn't loiter. You shouldn't hang out in the bathhouse only as necessary so that you sweat out and you're massaged, and then you shtatef, you rinse up, you dry off the yetze, and then go out and go home. Okay, that's the order. Ubodek atzmo kodem sheikanas lamerchatz. The Rambam, remember when he spoke about eating and bathroom habits, we have to do bedika. You have to make sure that you are already clean. Okay, and you don't need to go to the bathroom because there were no bathrooms in the bathhouse, which is counterintuitive. But anyways, at least it doesn't sound like there were there. So you had to check yourself before you went to the merchatz, the achar sheyetze shema yihet tzarich l'nekavav, right? You don't want to be in a situation where in the schwitz and you got to go to the bathroom. That's not good. And a person should, now he's just like reviewing. Once I mentioned that you always have to make sure you don't have to go to the bathroom. So not just when it comes to the merchatz, before you eat, after you eat, after sex, before sex, before a workout and after a workout, make sure you go to the bathroom before you go to sleep and after you go to sleep. Ubeshir hakol asara. And the Rambam says if you add up, I just listed 5 occasions and you multiply it by 2, and that gives you the equation of 5 times 2 equals 10, which means there are 10 occasions that you have to make sure that you don't have to go to the bathroom. Right? Again, going to the bathroom was like a major thing to us. You just do it. You pull over to the side of the road if you're a man. Even for a woman, there's a way to do it. Not for now. But anyways, okay. Number 17, Yud Zayin. Kishiyetze adam min hamerchatz yilbash begadav. Okay, so now you're on your way home. So obviously, what do you do when you leave? You have to make sure you have clothing on. Okay, via chasa rosho, and make sure you leave with your yarmulke. Okay, bebayis hachitzon. The Gemara, I forgot exactly where. I think in Brachos. Everything is in Brachos. Talks about the merchatz had different. Yeah, it is in Brachos because it discusses where you're allowed to wear your tefillin. I think like around Chaf Aleph, Chaf Beis, Chaf Gimel, and that third parak in Brachos where it talks about places you can wear your tefillin, you can't wear tefillin. So there were different rooms, an inner room, an outer room, and some places you could say Shema, some places you couldn't say Shema, because some places you were naked, some places you were naked. So there are different levels. It's almost like a diagram of an atom. There was the nucleus, and then there was there's the inner shell and the outer shell. So there was different areas next to the actual pool or the merchatz that had different halachos. So in one of them, the outer one, I think, if I remember correctly, is where you kept your clothing, like what we would call today the locker room, right? So after you leave, you get dressed in the locker room, and you would leave. That's called the bayis hachitzon. Okay, and you would cover your head when you leave the room so that you don't tishlot bo ruach kara, so that you don't catch a cold. Even in the summer, you have to be careful, because the Rambam is going to explain that this experience was like draining. So therefore, you have to take precautions when you go home. Right? And the Rambam says similarly that after you leave, you have to wait. You have to take a breather. You can't just go back to work or go back on the treadmill or do it. You have to relax. Okay, you have to just chillax after you finish with your merchatz. V'yanuach gufa, you take a rest. V'tasar achemimut, and the chamimus, the heat that you absorbed, let it dissipate. That's what the Rambam advises. V'yachar kach yochal, then do what we do best, eat. V'im yashen ma'at, and if you decide to take a little nap, is not so bad. Sleep it off. Okay. And you shouldn't drink cold water right after you leave. And obviously drinking in the merchatz is a no-no. So what if you're thirsty? If you really, really have a desire and you can't wait and you have to drink, right? Ya'arav hamayim biyayin. You should take some water, dilute it with wine, or bidvash v'yish, to have some kind of, right? They had all these, if you remember, the Gemaras talked about all their concoctions that they would take. And once again, Rambam takes almost everything here from various Gemaras. There's a Gemara, we'll get to that in a minute. If you anoint yourself with oil, b'mosak shamim, in the winter, after you rinse off, you put some oil, some body lotion, and Rambam says, wunderbar. 18. Last one for the night. Lo yargil adam lahakis dam tamid. So this is something that we do not do at all today. There are many, many Gemaras in Gittin and Shabbos that discuss the ancient practice of bloodletting, which they thought was a good way to heal yourself. We know that it's not exactly accurate, but there are many, many laws, extensive research the Gemara does into how to safeguard yourself from dropping dead after bloodletting. We don't want that to happen. So there are rules. Lo yakiz ela im hayatzarech lo biyoter. Only bloodlet if you absolutely have to. Right? If you absolutely have to, if it was absolute medical necessity, and if it was covered under your insurance. V'lo yakiz lo b'masacham v'lo shamim. And you can't do it in the summer or in the winter. So what's left? Well, April and September, right? It sounds like those are the only 2 months that the Rambam lets you to do it. April and September. Ela ma'at b'mei Nisan, ma'at b'mei Tishrei. Okay, it's too cold in it's too cold in January, it's too hot in July, and the weather's going to affect you. Uma'achar chamishim shana lo yakiz klal. If you're 50 and above, you are banned. Okay, it's only if you're below 50. So I guess no one in this audience is doing this. And on the list of things that are a no-go are going to the merchatz. Because remember how the Rambam described how invigorating and exhilarating this merchatz experience is. So therefore, bloodletting, you're all faint and weak, and this merchatz is going to nuke you. So we don't want to be nuked. Not a good thing. V'lo yakiz v'yetzel derech. And the third law is do not take bloodletting to go, right? If you're going on a trip, a business trip or an outing, don't bloodlet before. It's not good for it's not good for you to go out. V'lo biyom sheba min haderech, and not the day of arrival. So the day of departure, you don't bloodlet, and the day of arrival back, you don't bloodlet either, because you have all this tircha from the derech. Now you should eat. Now fasting isn't good either, right? Although today, when when they take blood or anesthesia, or when you get pricked, they don't want you, like for an MRI, whatever it is, with the contrast, so they don't want you to eat usually. So here it's the same thing, but you should eat a little bit, the Rambam says. You have to have some energy in your system, but not as much as usual. V'yanuach b'yom hakaza, and the best thing to do is take a rest. V'lo yiga, v'lo yi'ama, v'lo yitayal. Don't go to the gym, don't jog, don't exert yourself, and don't spazier. And those are the rules of bloodletting. I guess we'll stop here. Tomorrow is tomorrow's a good one.